Hi guys, don't you just love this month's cards for the card club? We're going to go ahead and make those cards. So if you're new to my card club, what you need to do is make a $35 pre-tax, pre-shipping purchase in my shop online. You need to reside in the US. You need to leave me your contact information when checking out at my shop so I can mail you your goodies. And you also need to use the current month's host code, which is listed here in the video. If you qualify for all of these items, then I will mail you the materials to make these 3 cards with their envelopes. So the card kit will come with all the materials needed. You also will have a PDF file, and in there will give you all the measurements and materials used. Plus there will be a link to the instructional video. The only thing that will not come in here will be any stamped images, your inks or adhesives, just the materials. So if you spend $150 or more in my store, do not use my host code. You will get your own code for your rewards. But I still will mail the card kit package to you. If you make a qualifying purchase for 6 months in a row, you automatically qualify for a free current stamp set valued at $25. My gift to you. I will get in touch with you, and once you let me know which current stamp set you would like, then I will get it in the mail for you. That's just my thank you for supporting me. So we're going to go ahead and get started on these cards. You're going to get your package in the mail. You just want to take out your package. Here's your PDF file. You can just set that aside. So your cards will be in order. This will be card number 1. In here you're going to have a little packet with a bunch of embellishments. That's going to be for all your cards. So we're going to set that aside. We're going to take the top card off with all the materials, and we're going to set the other 2 cards aside. So you're going to find a bunch of pieces in here. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to do our stamping, because that's going to take some time to dry. So you're going to get a piece of glossy paper. So this piece here is measured out at 4.5 by 3. So we're going to do some inking on here. So you're going to need 3 different colors. We're going to use Berry Burst, Bermuda Bay, and Lemon Lime Twist. You also will need the aqua painters. So with your aqua painters, you have 2 different sizes. I'm going to use the larger brush for this. And what you're going to do is you're just going to squeeze your ink pads so you get a little bit of ink on the bottom here. You're going to do that for each of the ink pads. And then what you're going to do is make sure you have a scrap piece of paper on hand. You're going to take your colors. You can pick whichever order you want to go in. I'm going to pick some of this up. I didn't squeeze any of my water out. I'm just picking some up, and I'm just going at an angle here. Just like this. And then what I'll do is I'll just run this until it's clear. I'll just wipe it back and forth. Once it's clear, I'll pick up my next set of color and just go at an angle. Again, I mean, this is just my design. You guys do what you want with this. And then I'll run it clear again, and I'll pick up my Bermuda Bay, and I'll do the same thing at an angle. So then if you want to go back over any of the colors to make them darker, you can go ahead and do that. So once you have that where you'd like it, just don't forget to run your aqua painter clear again. We're going to go ahead and put up our ink pads, and we're going to set that to the side to let it dry. So we're going to start to assemble the rest of the card and do some stamping while we're letting that piece dry. So in your cards materials here, you'll see a little piece of silver foil. This piece here is cut at 3 1/4 by 1, and we're going to do some stamping on that. And we are using, I forgot to mention, we are using the Beautiful Day stamp set. I also have used on one of the cards the Teeny Tiny Wishes stamp set for the Happy Mother's Day. You can always use this saying if you want, or one of these. So in this stamp set, you're going to take the Happy Birthday, May Your Day Be As Beautiful As You. And we're going to stamp that on our piece of silver foil. So you want to take your Emboss Buddy And you want to just rub that over the top of your foil paper because we are going to be doing some embossing. So you're just going to want to take your Versamark ink. You want to just be careful when you stamp this down because it's on the silver foil. You want to press down lightly because you don't want it to slide. So you just want to line it up on your silver foil. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use gold emboss powder to emboss that out. So you're just going to sprinkle some gold emboss powder over the top of your silver. And then I'm just going to use a pair of tweezers here to pick this up. So you just want to give that a flick to get all that excess off. So then you're just going to emboss this. So I love how pretty that gold looks on the silver there. So now we're going to bring in our piece of glossy white paper, and you'll see that it's curled, but that's all right because we're going to glue it down, and you can kind of bend it a little bit so that we can stamp on it. So you're going to take the big butterfly out of here, and you're just going to take your basic black ink, and we're going to stamp right on top of that. Now when you stamp on top of this, because it is glossy, you want to make sure your butterfly doesn't slide. So there's your butterfly. Now you can let that dry on its own, or you can take your heat tool and dry that butterfly. So once your butterfly is completely dry, we're going to go ahead and assemble the card. So you're going to see you have a piece of Dapper Denim cardstock. You're just going to want to fold that right in half and use your bone folder to give that a good crease. You're also going to have a piece of Sweet Soiree Designer Series paper. This one here is cut at 5 1/4 by 4. This is just going to layer on top, but before we layer it on top, you're going to find 2 pieces of Night of Navy corduroy ribbon. So these pieces of ribbon are going to layer one on the side and one across the bottom. So you're going to have 2 different sizes. So your shorter one's going to go on the side, your longer one's going to go on the bottom here. So I'm just going to flip this over and put some snail adhesive on the back, and then I kind of just layered it along the edge. And then this is going to layer right over the bottom here. So it'll look like this. So then what I'm going to do on the back here, I really want to make sure it stays to the front of the card. So I'm just going to use some Tombow Mono Glue. So then we're going to take and we're going to glue our butterfly down next. So again, I'm going to use the Tombow liquid glue. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take your gold piece here and you're going to put Stampin' Up! Dimensionals on it, and we're going to stick this right up on the front. And then right along the side here, in your little bag that you have with all of your embellishments, so you're going to find your gold faceted gems here. You're going to have 3 of them. They're different sizes. So I just lined them up here along my ribbon. But before I did that, I wanted to glue this down so it's not moving. So I just took some glue dots and just kind of put them underneath my ribbon so it's not swaying around. And then once you get your glue dots down underneath your ribbon, then just kind of line these up along your ribbon here. And then you want to make sure you don't lose your other embellishments here. So I'm just going to put these back in my little bag until we need them again. And then the last step will be to take your piece of Whisper White and just glue it on the inside of your card. And I'm just going to use some snail adhesive to glue that inside. So that's it to your first card. So now we're going to move on to our second card. So the second card is going to be the Soft Sky base. This one's pretty simple, but it's a little time consuming. So you're going to find a piece of Whisper White. The other stuff we're going to set aside. We're going to do our stamping first. You're going to take the rose out of this stamp set, and we're going to stamp it in basic black. And you're just going to stamp it all over the card. I kind of started and just did one in the center. So there's your leaf. Just be aware where your leaf is, where you want your leaf, if you want it up or down. So I started in the center, and then I went off to the sides. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to start in the center, and I'm going to put my leaf so it's facing down. And then I'm just going to take and stamp this flower off the card. So maybe I'll do one here. So you want to make sure you have a piece of scrap paper underneath. So you want to make sure before you start coloring that this is completely dry. I would recommend hitting it with your heat tool just to make sure that it's dry. What I did on this card here is I used the watercolored pencils with the blender pens to get this effect. This card here, I used the aqua painters with our inks to get this effect. This one here, I colored with the Stampin' Write markers, so you get this effect. And then this one here, I colored with the Stampin' Blends. So there's many different ways you can color it. I tried to keep the colors all consistent with the red and then the pool party or soft sky color in the background to match our cards. So I'm going to use this one here on this card. So let's go ahead and finish up our stamping. So you're going to get a piece of gold foil. This piece here was cut at 1 1/4 by 5. And then I just put the end in the banner triple punch and got this. You could take your scissors and cut it up the center and then cut it to make it flagged. So you're just going to stamp out happy birthday. May your day be as beautiful as you. And you're going to use your Archival black. Now again, it's foil paper, so you want to be careful when you put this on because it can slide and smear. So this is going to take a little bit to dry. If you guys have the new Stamparatus, you could do this without worrying about this smearing because the magnets will hold it in place and you won't have to worry about it smearing. So now we're just going to assemble the cards. So you just want to fold it in half and use your bone folder to give that a good crease. Then you're going to take your piece of colored paper. So in your packet, you're going to have a piece of the Love Mini Tinsel Trim. It comes in a combo pack. So you're just going to take your piece of ribbon and you're just going to wrap it around your card base. Bring it to the front here. And then off to the side, you're just going to tie a little knot up here. Just like that. And I kind of have this a little towards the bottom. It's not right in the middle. Because you're going to pop this up. So you can kind of use this to kind of eyeball where you want this. So I think I want to move it down just a bit. Just like so. So once you get it to where you want it, again, I'm going to use the Tombow liquid glue to glue this down. So once you have that glued down, you're going to take some Stampin' Up! Dimensionals and put it on the back of this and pop that right up on that ribbon. So I like to use a lot. They're fairly cheap. They're $4 for 300 of them. And when you mail them, if you don't use enough, the object will go flat. So I'm just going to lie this right over your ribbon. You want to make sure it's kind of straight. So now you have your two little pieces left. What you want to do is just kind of trim this up so it's not real long. Probably about that much. And then all I did was I kind of just unweaved the ribbon in here. I kind of just pulled it apart and kind of made it frayed out. I kind of like that. It's kind of neat the way it is. And then if you think they're too long, you can trim up some of these pieces here. In with your embellishments, there's a little gold heart in there. This is from the Metallics Enamel Shapes, and you're just going to stick this right there. So before I go ahead and stick this on here, I'm going to take one of our glue dots and I want to just make sure it has enough hold on there. So I'm just going to take a glue dot, and then I'm just going to put this heart right in the middle of the knot here. So that's it to that card. Isn't that card pretty? I don't know which one is my favorite out of these. I like them all a lot, but I think this last one is probably my most favorite one. So now we're going to move on to card number 3. This card is the Sweet Sugar Plum base. So you're going to find a piece of Whisper White in here. This is cut at 5 1/4 by 4. That's just going to layer on the inside of your card. You're also going to find a piece of watercolor paper. This is cut at 3 1/2 by 3 1/2. And then you also will find 2 pieces of fresh fig. This one here was cut out of the classic label punch. And this one I'm using from the Teeny Tiny Wishes Happy Mother's Day. I also included a bigger piece of fresh fig for your greeting on here, Always Thinking of You. This one here is cut at 1/2 by 3. So if you don't have the Teeny Tiny Wishes or you want to do the Always Thinking of You, you can use this piece here. You also will have a piece of powdered pink ribbon. This is a 3-inch piece, and you're going to have the tapered ends on there. You also will have 2 pieces of designer series paper. This is the Petal Passion designer series paper. These pieces are cut at 4 1/8 by 1. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to stamp on our watercolor paper here. So you will need to use the big rose on here, and I'm actually going to use my Stamparatus for this. You can use your blocks and stamp this way. I like the way the Stamparatus gives me a darker image. I can create a much darker image on my flower. What you're going to do, if you don't have the Stamparatus or a tool similar, you're going to just take your stamp on your block. You're going to take your Versamark ink. You're going to spread your Versamark ink all over your flower. Then you're going to take your basic black, stamp that right on top, and then stamp this down on the watercolor paper. And then you'll be able to emboss, and it embosses. You can get a better embossed image this way. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our piece of watercolor paper. We're going to place it right in the center here. Now with the Stamparatus, you have 2 magnets. These magnets are very, very strong magnets, so you want to keep them away from each other. I just put some duct tape on them, so I have a little like tab to pull them from, and then if they do smash together and break, the pieces aren't going to go flying. So I'm going to use both my magnets, but I'm just going to take one off first, and I'm just going to kind of position it in the corner, and then I'm just going to take my other magnet and position it in the other corner here. So then I'm just going to take my flower and just position it wherever I want it here, and then I'm just going to pick it up with my plate. So I'm going to go ahead and ink it up with the basic black. I love that you can get a very dark image with this Stamparatus. So all I'm going to do is just take a wipe for right now and clean this off so I can put my Versamark ink on here. And then I'll take a paper towel and just dry this off before I put my Versamark ink on. Then I'm just going to take my Versamark ink I'm going to do it once again. And I did not use my stamping buddy, so if you have your stamping buddy, I would recommend putting the stamping buddy down. I forgot to do that, so hopefully a lot of the powder will not stick. So then I'll just take my wet wipe and just kind of rub over it and get a lot of the ink off. And then what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and put this on a block and run it through the Stampin' Scrub with the Stampin' Cleaner so that my stamp is nice and clean. So then I'm just going to take a piece of scrap paper and I'm going to take my clear emboss powder and just sprinkle that over the top. Then I always give it a couple of flicks to make sure I get a lot of that powder off. So I can't tell, but it looks pretty good. It looks like I didn't get a lot of powder everywhere. Then you're just going to emboss this. You're just going to use your heat tool and heat that up. So once that's all embossed, it'll make coloring it very easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use crushed curry for in the middle. And I'm using the aqua painters to color this. So I'm just going to put that right in the center of my flower here. And I didn't squeeze any water on this. Then I'm just going to run my tip clean. Once it's clean, I'm going to take rich raspberry, squeeze that up, and this is where you're going to do your coloring. So I'm not squeezing any water out. I'm just picking up some of that color, and I want it to be quite dark towards the center, and as I work my way out, it's going to be lighter. So just depending on how much ink you pick up and how much water you squeeze out will determine your coloring here. And you can see I'm just adding darker, I'm just adding more ink in towards the center so that it's darker towards the center here. So you play with it, and once you get it to the coloring you like, just want to run that clean again. We're going to take Old Olive for the leaf, again squeeze it. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to color the whole outside of this with Wisteria Wonder. So again, make sure your tip is nice and clean. Squeeze your ink pad to give yourself a palette. And then I just went really light with this. So once we have that all colored, we're going to set that aside to let that dry up. And you're going to pull in your card base, and we're just going to fold that and use our bone folder to give that a good crease. Then you're going to pull in your other pieces of designer series paper. And these two are going to layer on the outside of the card. So you're just going to use some snail adhesive to anchor these down. So you give it about a 1/2 inch on the outside of the card as a little border there. And then it's up to you which one you want to stamp on here. So I'm going to stamp both of them, and I'm going to show you what you could do with the ribbon for each one of them. Just stamp these out in basic black, both of them. But the first thing we're going to do before we put these on is we're going to glue this to the front here. So you want to use something strong. So I'm just going to use the Tombow liquid glue to hold this down. So once you have that glued down, what you're going to do is, depending on which one you want to do. So if you want to use your Happy Mother's Day, you just take some liquid Tombow mono glue, glue this right down, and then take your mini stamping dimensionals and pop that right up on there. If you want to use this one, then what I did was I just kind of folded this in half. Then I just took a glue dot, put it right in between the ribbon so it stays. So once I do that, this is going to go up here. So I'm going to take another glue dot. I'm going to figure out exactly where I want it. I think I want it right there. And then you can either pop this up, which I think I'm going to pop that up. So we're just going to use the Stampin' Up! Dimensionals. And then you will find in your embellishments, you'll have 3 embellishments left. These are your glitter enamel dots. So you're just gonna want to take those, and I put them right here in the corner. It's up to you where you want to put them. And then the last thing I did was I took my Wink of Stella, the clear Wink of Stella, and I just went over the whole top of this flower with the Wink of Stella. The only thing is, when you do this, it picks up some of the color. So if you move over to the yellow, you want to just kind of take a paper towel or something and run this clear, and then move over to the yellow so you don't mix the two colors together. And again, when you move off of the yellow, you're going to want to run it clear. And then again with your leaf, you just want to make sure it runs clear. And then get your little leaf there. And then just make sure before you put the cap on to run it clear. And then the final piece of this card is your piece of Whisper White. You just want to take your snail adhesive, and just give that a couple of strips, and just put that in the inside of your card. So that's it to that card. That's our last card. So I hope you guys enjoyed this month's card club. Thanks for watching.